This is session number 10 of the Sales Mastermind podcast. Today in the hot seat, we have me. Hit the music. Hello and welcome to the Sales Mastermind podcast. Get ready to harness the power of the Mastermind community and take your sales to the next level. I'm your host, Jonathan Stewart. Jonathan Stewart asks, how can I best use email marketing to support my sales efforts? Now, as I said in the intro, this question is my question, and the reason I'm answering my own question is to take you through the process of how I solve my own problems in sales. So one of the things that I've noticed since I've been blogging and podcasting is that I often forget to approach my own sales problems the same way I do solving other people's problems. It's easy for me to take the same amount of time and effort to think through a list of possible solutions to my own problems. So in light of this, I decided I'm going to occasionally share ways that I have recently solved and answered my own questions. So this question really just results from the fact that I recently received extra sales territory to manage, and at really an extra state. So I more than doubled my sales territory. And in order to effectively cover this new sales territory, I needed to make sure that I was most efficient and I was using technology to my best advantage. And as a salesperson, you know one of the best tools you can use is a good email campaign. And so I decided I would share my recommendations and the ways that I have solved this problem of using email effectively. Now, in the introduction here, I want to mention a book that I read probably 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, and the book is called Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden. Now, this is a great book that I definitely will recommend you guys pick up, just regarding the theme of being effective and using your time most effectively. And really the main theme of this book is that you don't need to be wasting your time doing things that don't really matter, and whatever you can automate, you need to automate so you can multiply your time. You know there's only so many hours in a day and you can only get so much done. So if you can automate and systematize your life, then you can get a lot more accomplished. And email marketing is one of the ways that I can automate much of my sales process and much of my sales follow-up, and I believe it will be helpful for you too. Every salesperson, whether it's a B2B situation, business to business, or a business to customer situation, can definitely benefit from talking about email marketing, so I hope you'll pay attention to the 14 recommendations I'll give in just a second. But before I do that, I do want to just tell a story that kind of helps illustrate my point here. So when I was first kind of getting into woodworking and working with cedar wood, and I was building planter boxes and different things like that, I had a table saw, a chop saw, and some other things, and I quickly realized that since I did not have a second person there to help me, I needed something to help hold up the wood. And so I found what is called a rolling stand. And it's simply a stand with a roller on top that you can put anywhere behind your saw or beside your saw, and it will support the wood for you, and then you can roll it across and do the proper cuts. Well, I realized that is almost like having a second man there helping you. But you know what's cool about this tool, this rolling stand, is it works for free. It's always there. It always works. You know what? Email can be the same way. It can be something that is a useful tool. It can be an extension to yourself. And once you set it, it takes care of itself. It does it for you. And it's a very effective way. So I hope you're inspired, if you're not already using email, to use it more effectively. And if you are already using it, then I hope these 14 recommendations will help you be more effective. So the first of my 14 recommendations is to make sure that you find a good email marketing provider. If you've been using email before, you realize that you can't just run a marketing campaign through Gmail or Outlook or something like that, because it's really kind of cumbersome to send out and track your emails. So usually what people will do is they'll sign up for email marketing provider. The first one I started out with was MailChimp. So it's free to start with, and if you add on features, then it can get a little bit more expensive, but it's a free thing to start out with. And it does work, and it's pretty simple to use, but I don't believe it's a good long-term option. It doesn't allow you to do some some of the more advanced tactics of tracking different things, of tagging customers, putting them in categories, and things like that. But it is a good way to start if you do not have a list yet and you're just trying to build a list. It has a couple basic opt-in forms that you can set up in your website and set up messages that are sent to the subscriber who signs up. And so MailChimp would be maybe a good place to start. But what I've moved to recently is a company called ConvertKit, ConvertKit, KIT. And this is what I've been currently using, and I'm really loving it. We'll talk about it a little bit more throughout this particular podcast episode. But what I love about ConvertKit, just first of all, is that it allows you to have the power of something more complicated like Infusionsoft. You may have heard of that. That actually can cost up to $10,000 to get set up with everything that needs to go into it. And it has the same power basically as most of the features that you need with Infusionsoft, but it's as easy or maybe even more easy to use than MailChimp. And so it's a very effective way to get started. And you know what? What's cool about it? If you can start out at just $29 a month for up to 1,000 subscribers, and that gets you the same power as when you have thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers. You still have access to all the same tools. Very, very effective. And when I first got started with it, within 30 minutes I was up and running, and I had most of the things figured out. And then throughout about a week of use, I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I've had actually several months of use of it now, and I'm really finding it to be useful. A lot of good opt-in forms, a lot of good ways to tag your customers, a lot of ways to segment your list to allow you to automatically tag customers based on certain criteria. You can plug it into different carts on your website, so it can automatically mark people who have purchased, and maybe people that have purchased, you send them a series of emails to follow up on that product. And that's part of really just the automation that's built in. You can do a lot of different automation through ConvertKit, but the first step, find a good marketing provider, email marketing provider, and I recommend ConvertKit. Then the second tip I have for you for marketing with email effectively is to make sure that you spend a good amount of time crafting a great subject line. And this is a huge important thing to think about. The subject line is what shows up in the person's inbox and is the first thing they see, and that really greatly affects whether they're going to click on your email or not. It's like the cover of a book. You know, people aren't going to grab a book that looks really bad, really dated, and is really badly designed and want to read that book. But if a book has a really nice, strong, appealing cover, then people are going to read that book. An email subject line is similar to that. If it's engaging, if it's something that they're interested in, they'll click on that email and they'll read it. And so make sure you spend some time creating strong subject lines that will get you more email opens. The third tip is to make sure that you are not always just sending out a hard sell email, but you are giving them useful and educational content as well mixed in. And this will allow people, when they see your email, not to think of, oh, okay, here's another sales pitch, but rather you're providing value to them. So that way, once you do push for a sale, they've already received a lot of value from you, and they're more likely to react to that. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book several years ago called Jab, Jab, Right Hook, and it's really regarding this particular just general principle of you need to make sure that you provide value, and he described that as jab, jab. That way, when you do go to make a right hook, it's effective because you're not just right hooking the whole time. You're not hard selling, but yet you're providing value, you're providing educational content, things they actually care about, and then you mix in sales throughout that. You know, don't be ashamed to sell products, but you just need to do it effectively. The fourth tip that I have for you is to make sure that you don't waste or not use, so make sure that you use the PS at the end of your email with a call to action or a statement or a web link or something that you want them to take action on. And it's amazing that studies have shown that most people will skim through an email, and they'll look at the first several paragraphs, maybe they'll look at the bullet points real quick, but almost everyone takes a moment to look at the PS at the end of your email. And so make sure that you're using this PS and that you're using it effectively, because it really can help you get clicks and get people to take interactions to your email. Use the PS at the end of your email with a call to action. The fifth tip for you guys is to make sure that you have a really strong opening paragraph. So like I mentioned, most people skim through emails and they don't spend a lot of time actually reading throughout everything. But if you have a really, really strong opening paragraph, something that's compelling and draws them in, there's a lot better chance that they'll actually read through the rest of your email. And so make sure that you spend a lot of time, like we mentioned, on that subject line, but then also make sure you spend a lot of time on that opening paragraph. If you get those two things right and you have a PS at the end that is strong, then you're going to have a very effective email. The sixth tip is to just make sure that you just don't get stuck on using fancy HTML formats in your emails. It's okay, like I often do, is to include a few pictures and some basic graphics to support the message, but don't overdo it. So people are less likely to spend a lot of time reading an email that looks all fancy and it's complicated. It has multiple columns and all kinds of different things going on, like a complicated website. People are more likely, and this is what the research shows, that plain text emails with limited graphics actually have a lot better engagement rate. Now, the good news for you is it takes a lot of time, and you have to be a little bit more tech savvy to be able to do an HTML formatted email. But anyone can create a basic text email with compelling text. And so this is good news for you, but you don't need to be using a bunch of fancy HTML in your emails. The seventh tip is to make sure that you write to your customers in a story form like you're talking to a friend. And so, people, and they have for years and years and years, this hasn't changed, people like stories. Stories really draw people in. And so if you can craft your emails to be a story and to draw people in with that really strong opening paragraph like we mentioned a few tips ago, and you draw them in with a strong story and with language that is compelling like that, people will read those emails and they'll begin to want to receive those emails and read them. People will like you because you're talking to them like a friend and you're telling them stories, and that'll be very effective. The eighth tip, and this kind of comes down to actually how to use email, is to use email as a follow-up tool. And so I personally use email as a way to quickly follow up with people. So I currently have a sales territory covering several states, and I go to them physically and I talk to them, and I may offer a certain product or I may offer a certain promotion that we're going to do, and if they're interested, then what I'll do is I'll tag them as interested in a certain subject, and then I'll follow up with an email and give them a call to action, thanking them for their time and reminding them of maybe what was agreed to and what some of the next steps are in the process. But I follow up with an email. After a phone call, I'll follow that phone call up with an email to thank them and to do the same thing, to give them some information to further the conversation. So email can be a very effective follow-up tool. You don't have to necessarily always follow up a visit with a phone call or always follow up a phone call with another phone call. You can often follow up with an email, and I found that people are so busy that they often appreciate this way because they can open an email on their terms. And since they know who you are, they've communicated with you, they're more likely to open that email because they've had that recent communication and they're going to read it. And so it's going to be very effective. Now, I do have a productivity tip for you guys, and this is going to be super helpful for you. And really this kind of comes back down to the opening recommendation I had for you guys to read the book Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden. But this is to have commonly sent emails pre-written in a templates folder that you can customize for future use. So if you're like me, there's about 10 or 15 different emails that you seem to write over and over and over. And instead of actually writing these over and over and over, what you need to do is go ahead and save the basic text from these emails in a folder and just copy and paste and change what you need to and adapt it to the situation and the person. And this will save you a lot of time needlessly writing the same email over and over. So use email as a follow-up tool and have many of these emails pre-written and pre-templated for yourself. The ninth tip and recommendation is to make sure that you always have a call to action link that automatically tags the prospect. So this is specifically a tip that if you're using ConvertKit or something similar, you have the power to put a link in an email, and when a person clicks that link, your program, in my case ConvertKit, your email marketing program, automatically puts a tag on that customer that I can come back and target later that says they are interested in that subject. So if I'm running a promotion that's, say, good for the month of July, and I put a link in there that says for more information or for details, click here, I know that if that person took the time to click there and go to that web page or download that PDF or whatever that link goes to, that they have some interest. And then what I can do is I can automatically set up a series of emails that help solidify and sell that product to them, and that can automatically be sent to them based on them clicking on that and being put into a certain group with that tag. I can also physically look at that grouping of people that have been tagged for that and give them a call or physically visit them. But this automatically tags people and categorizes them as interested. So if you are using ConvertKit or something similar that you have some kind of power to do that, definitely use a call to action link and automatically tag the prospect. The 10th tip is to make sure that you segment your customers by their interests and purchase history. So this is similar to the tip 9 that is talked about here, and this is really related to that, but it's segmenting your customers by interest. So it's annoying to receive a promotional email if you've ever done this for something that you've already bought. So imagine you go and you buy something, and then for the next week, you keep on getting emails trying to sell you the same product that you bought. You're going to probably unsubscribe from that email list. And at the same rate, it's also useless to receive information that you're not interested in. So if an email doesn't apply to you and you read the subject line and you realize it doesn't apply to you, you don't open it. And so a good way as a email marketer and as a sales professional and as a marketing professional, a good way to get people to open your emails in a greater number is to only send emails to people who are interested in the content you are sending. Now this sounds kind of like, how would I know they're interested? But if you follow tip number 9, where you automatically tag people as interested, and if you also go in and manually tag people as interested in certain things, or if you have your email marketing provider connected to your shopping cart or your e-commerce program, whatever you're using, then you can have it automatically tag people when they have purchased a product so you don't have to send them more information. And so you can make sure that you segment your customers so you're only sending them information that they're actually interested in. One of the ways you can also do this is you can send out an email to when people first sign up for your list, and you can give them a series of 2 or 3 different categories and ask them to click on the one they're interested in so they can only receive emails based on what they're interested in. Let people choose where they want to be and what kind of information they want to receive. Segment them by clicks on different links that you've sent out, and also based on purchase history, and this will help you get a lot better open rates and be a lot more effective with your email campaigns. The 11th recommendation is to make sure that you're able to track the email opens of every email conversation. So ConvertKit, MailChimp, Infusionsoft, whatever email marketing provider you have, that does track opens, clicks, and different interactions with those emails, and you can go follow up on that. But what about the one-off emails that you send through your Outlook or your Gmail or whatever email provider you normally use? You need to be able to track those as well. So when I send a follow-up email to someone, and I want to make sure that they receive that and read that email. Now, the best way to do this, I found, was a plugin that's free from HubSpot. So HubSpot, I have a few blog posts about it, is a really good free CRM tool, a customer relationship management tool. And it has a plugin that works for Outlook and Gmail that allows you to track opens for every regular email that you send through Outlook or Gmail. Now, this is super awesome because it'll give you a log of when this email is open. So let's say that you send an email following up on a meeting, and you maybe put a brochure or something in there that you wanted them to see. You can go back and look at that email and see, okay, they did open it, so that's good news. Or they haven't opened it yet. Maybe I need to go ahead and follow up via phone call to make sure that I get them the information that they need. You need to make sure that if you're using email to communicate, using email to follow up, using email like the great tool that it is, you need to make sure that people are actually opening the emails that you're sending. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. The 12th tip that I have for you guys is to use email to launch new products and announce specials. So, like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you're providing educational content and other content mixed in with this, but use your email as a great way to launch products and announce specials. So, there's a principle that I've noticed in sales that most people don't buy the first time they're introduced to a product, but yet it takes 5 or 6 or sometimes even more interactions with a product and with an idea before people will buy into it and buy the product. And so what if you could take away some of those phone calls and some of those in-person meetings, and you could replace those with some introductory emails that kind of get them used to the product? That's going to make your sales process a whole lot more efficient because they've already seen the product. They've already read a little bit about it. Maybe you included a video or a brochure or some kind of document that allowed them to get a little more information on it. That way, when you do show up and you mention that product, they have a frame of reference. They can go back and say, oh, yeah, I did see that email. I do remember seeing that product. And you can talk to them about it. I've used this effectively for the 3 years or so that I've ran my current sales territory, and I find it's so amazingly useful. So if I initially send out to my list of customers and prospects a promotion, and so I'll send that promotion out, and I'll look at it, and maybe I seem like most of the time I get 40 to 50% opens on that email. So I know those people looked at it. Then what I do is when I go physically visit these people or talk to them on the phone, I mention, hey, I sent this out via email. Did you have a chance to look at it? And so most people will go, oh, yeah, I did see that, and then we can talk about the product. Or if I just start talking about the product, they'll be like, yeah, I remember seeing that on the email that you sent out. And I'm often able to sell that product on maybe even just a second or third interaction. Whereas if I would have tried to introduce it to them just on the first visit in person or on the phone, it would be way less of a chance for me to sell the product right on the spot. So use email to launch new products and announce specials, and then follow up with other means. So use it as that introductory launching and information and announcement. The 13th tip for you is to make sure that you use email to remind people that a promotion is about to end. So there's nothing that pushes people to action more effectively than fearing they're going to lose something, miss out on a good deal. And many times people, it's not that they didn't want to buy the product, or it's not that they didn't want to pull the trigger on that deal. It's that they got so busy that they forgot about it. And so a nice, friendly reminder email is very effective for getting some last-minute sales. I really found this to be true in the particular industry that I'm in. We do pre-season ordering. So as you know, the lawn and garden industry is very seasonal. And out here in California where I am, it's not as bad as some parts of the country, but it's a very seasonal business nonetheless. And so what will happen is near the end of every year, we have our dealers pre-buy a certain amount of product, and of course they get a discount for buying that, and that gets delivered in the springtime. But you know what? It's almost all my customers will always wait to that last minute until I send them and call them and say, hey, there's only a few days left, and then all of a sudden everyone kicks into action and places their orders. And so those last minute emails, those last minute follow-ups will be very effective to close some last minute sales. So people will not be missing the sale, and so will push them to action. The 14th and final tip is to use your automatic features in your email service provider. So one of the things that ConvertKit has that's very effective is they have an automation sequence that you can set up with really unlimited amount of emails. And you can have those emails automatically sent out at a certain day or a certain time and have them educate people and follow up on a sales situation. So here's an example of something I'm currently using. So we sell a line of lawnmowers and a line of lawnmower equipment that requires a dealer to come in with a pretty high investment of money. So you have to come in $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 to come on to this product line. And a product line like that takes a little bit more commitment and a little bit more financial commitment for people, it takes a little bit of education and it takes a little time for people to get used to it. So when I know that people are interested based on our conversations or based on maybe a product demo that we did for them, I go ahead and put them through a 7 email sequence, and of course I probably will make it longer as time goes on, but this 7 email sequence takes them through a little bit of education on the product line, and it's automatic. Once I've set it up, it gets automatically sent to them. I don't have to go back and mess with it. It's automatic for myself. But in email number 1, I describe the details of a national sales campaign that is there from the company to support them in selling the product. In email number 2, I talk about how much money they can make selling the equipment. Email number 3, I educate them on what kind of profit margin you can make on selling the products. And then email number 4, I introduce them to some special programs that are run to help them win big contracts, to help them sell to different big companies that are buying multiple items at a time, and some different rebates and things that are available to them. Email number 5, I talk about how the product is built in America and how it's committed to America and American jobs. Email number 6, I talk about the marketing materials that are available that are customizable and pre-made. And email number 7 is just the last email currently in the sequence that just says simply, what's holding you back? And it has a call to action. Now, the first 4 emails are just simply 100% educational. But beginning in email number 5, I started adding a call to action. And the call to action is basic, and it just basically says, if you're ready to start the dealership application process, just reply to this email and let me know. And then email number 6 has a similar message. Email number 7 is kind of the more hard sell that basically says, you've been through this process, you've been educated in this way, you've had this product demo, and whatever else applies to that particular situation. What's holding you back from starting the application process? And I kind of go into the quick reminder there. And then once again, have that call to action. Reply to this email and let me know if you're ready to start the application process. So I've recently put this through the first test through people, and so far I've had most people open the email, and I've had 20% effective rate already. By email 5, I already had one of the people that I sent it to reply back and say, yes, I'm ready to start the application process, and that application is currently in process for a good account. And what I loved about this process is that I didn't have to sit there and bug these people and call them and follow up with all these different follow-ups, but yet this system is doing it for me. Also, it's giving them 7 different interactions again with the product, so that way when I go ahead and call them and physically visit these people that haven't emailed me back and said that they're ready, then I know that they have already been introduced to it, and they'll be a lot more likely to have an answer for me when I go and visit with them. So it's going to be very effective. So these are the 14 recommendations that I have, and this is how I have solved and am currently solving the question of how can I use email marketing more effectively. That was the question I had coming into this, and these are the 14 tools that I have put together and the 14 recommendations that I have put together that have been helping me. And I hope that these tips that you can apply to yourself as well. So I do want to mention a really special deal that I have for you. I did mention several times the email service provider that I use, ConvertKit, and I super highly recommend it. I've been using it for several months now, and I find it to be very easy to use, super effective. Like I mentioned, you can use it for $29 a month for up to 1,000 subscribers and have, the power of Infusionsoft tools that cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, super hard and cumbersome to set up, but yet it's as easy or maybe even easier to use than MailChimp. And so I want to offer you guys a free 30-day trial of ConvertKit. This is an exclusive link that I'll give you guys. It'll be in the show notes, but also if you just go to salespurpose.com/convertkit, all one word, convert, ConvertKit, VERT kit, KIT, salespurpose.com/convertkit. That'll forward you over to where you can set up an account and get a free 30-day trial of ConvertKit. So what'll happen is it'll take you through the sign-up process. It'll have you go ahead and put your credit card information in, but it will not charge you until the second month. You could cancel before that month is up, and you won't get charged if you decide you don't like it. But I figure that you'll love it because it is a great program. And feel free to ask me questions about it. Like I said, I've been using it for several months now. I'm pretty comfortable with the process, and I can answer any questions that you have regarding it. You can just email me at Jonathan, JONATHAN, the letter S, at salespurpose.com, Jonathan S at salespurpose.com, and I can answer any questions you have about ConvertKit or anything else that you have a question about. But I really recommend you give ConvertKit a try with that free 30-day trial, salespurpose.com/ConvertKit. Also want to mention that this is the official podcast of the Sales Mastermind community on Facebook, and I invite you to go to salespurpose.com/community, request to join our Facebook community where you can continue the conversation that we had here in the podcast. And we would love to see you there, love to have you be a part of that community. And lastly, before I let you go, I want to mention that if you want your question answered on the podcast, so if you just go to salespurpose.com/SM podcast, you'll see an area there where you can submit your question via email, via voicemail, or even via a recorded voicemail message right there via a plugin on the website. So I hope you'll use these email marketing tips, and I hope you were inspired to be more effective. I'll put all the notes in the show notes, and that will be at salespurpose.com/session010 for session number 10. And I hope you guys will have a great rest of your week. And take care. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Sales Mastermind podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes below for any resources or sites mentioned in the podcast. Also be sure to subscribe and join the Facebook community to continue the conversation. Here's to your success.